watching live or listening back to this show from Teachers Talk Radio. You can catch up with all our shows by visiting our YouTube channel or by listening back at ttradio.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to enjoy more live education conversation from TTR. We hope you enjoy this show.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
Hello and welcome. It's another Sunday. It's another show of the Sunday Social, and I have my co-host here, Claudia.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Well, and we have our special guest. So, Claudia, do you fancy taking the lead in this?
Yes, I'm super excited to tell you all about our special guest. We're really, really grateful. But today we've got, drum roll, please, Min Hee Park, or Park Min Hee, more natural in Korean, right? So let me just read off her awesomeness. She's an English educator, creative director, performance-based learning specialist with over, and I didn't know this, 25 years of experience in practical English tutoring and English education for children. You don't look like you've had 25 years of this. So you're working with children, teens, and adults. You hold a BA in English education from Korea University.
Yes.
Completed 2 years in Italian language and literature. Again,
Wow.
I didn't know this. Awesome stuff. And you spent a year as an exchange student at the University of Virginia. You've also got international experience because you went to an American school in Italy.
Yes.
Very interesting. And so you understand the global aspect of English as well as kind of the internal aspect as well. And you're not just that. At the moment, you are a lead instructor of an English theatre project, which is now called WOW, right? Hint, hint.
Yes.
We're doing big
yes,
things.
it is.
And you've worked as an English theatre director, film director, video production instructor, and a book club reading instructor. We are in the presence of somebody who's mighty. And your work focuses on practical, communication-centered English, performance-based language learning, and the use of storytelling and creativity to make language meaningful and engaging. Wow.
Wow.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Are you talking about me?
Well,
really awesome stuff.
Yeah, thank you ever so much for joining today's show, Minnie. Can you hear us okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. You're good.
Wonderful. Well, let's get started then. 25 years education. As Claudia mentioned, you don't appear to have had over 25 years teaching experience. I've just, reached the milestone of 20 years, and I'm starting to show it with my hair, unfortunately.
Well, I started really young.
You started really young. Yeah.
Yes. When I was in
I've also got what you studied in middle school. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that was my question. How did you get into teaching? What was your, what was your rite of passage towards teaching?
Well, actually, I haven't been teaching like in a really big group. So when I came back to Korea after being in Italy, I was in second year of middle school in Korea. And at the third year, I thought I want to teach English to the kids in our apartment. So I hung up a sign saying that I'm a middle school student and I want to teach English. So if you're interested, just contact me. And that's when I started my private lessons. And that was the start.
Wow.
Mhm.
What made you so brave? Because I don't meet many middle schoolers who are like, I'm gonna teach a skill. Like, what was it about your environment? And did you see a need? Like, what was it that motivated you? Was it money? Because I know pocket money might have been
Yes.
a thing. Okay.
Uh-huh. Like I didn't get paid a lot, but I did get paid a little bit, and I had this earning of wanting to teach um
Mm,
little kids and use like I needed a place to use English, and I
mm,
also liked to draw, so I wanted to interact with the kids by drawing and teaching them English and also showing them the original sounds of the Disney animations. So
oh,
I was like, you gotta watch Little Mermaid in English.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the
Pretty good
translated
motivation.
version,
No,
you
no,
or
no,
the
no.
audio,
Mhm.
you know, transliterated version with the audio or
Right,
anything.
right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Which it must have been so interesting for them to hear like maybe the songs that they've known in Korean in like their native tongue, now hearing
Hmm.
it in English. What kind of
Right.
feeling did they have when they heard it? Did they
So
compare immediately or was it like, oh, that's not
so back at our days, we did not have Netflix or
Mhm.
Disney Plus. It was
Mhm.
Yeah.
all the videotape. So having a English content animation was rare itself.
Mhm.
So I had all the
Mm,
collections. So I would lend the kids my video. So it was
okay.
like a big a new surprise for them, like, and they
Mm,
would just focus right into the animation itself because it was so fun to look at, so they didn't
mm,
mind the language at first, and later I heard that the kids would watch it again and again and
Mm.
oh.
just concentrate right away, and also
Mm,
Harry Potter was becoming a thing.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, they started reading that with the audio on. So
okay.
yeah.
That kind of reminds me back when it was around 2005 and the Harry Potter books were starting to become really, really popular in Korea. And one of my private students back then, and you know, she's been wonderful and I've kept in touch with her. One of my first students I ever had in Korea was reading Harry Potter books, and we would, you know, revolve the lesson around, you know, maybe a chapter or a page in the Harry Potter
Mm,
books. And it was really interesting to see Korean students back then trying to connect with whatever media there was available at that
mm.
time.
Hmm. Right.
So, how is it now? How have you evolved now? How do you find the students? Because today we wanted to know, or we wanted ideas of how to get Korean students speaking. So, a little bit about me. My classroom consists of like, right now I'm teaching adults, mostly freshmen in mixed ability classes. And one feedback that I got last semester was, you know, the students were like, it's all in English, there's no Korean. So the beginner students were like, we're just struggling. And then also, I have just so many levels. So I have people who are like full on advanced speaking, and then the textbook is too boring. I have people who are like, what? What did she say? What are we
Mm.
talking about? What, like literally everything is just what I go. And then you've
Mm.
got the middle students who are like, oh, let's just get through this. So what we really want to know is, do you have any ideas for us to implement, or how do you get students talking? Do you rely on Korean a lot, or do you minimize that? Like, what are some of the things that you deal with or that you use?
So before they get used to the environment, I do use a lot of
Mm,
Korean.
mhm,
But with the students that I used to teach, I just would give them homeworks to read the Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia series, and the Harry
mm,
Potter and the other easy chapter books. And then I would meet with them, and they would just retell the story, and I would just
mm,
listen to them. And Basically, I always was a friend who listened to what they understood about the story, and that was actually the really core of my class. Always coming to class after reading and then talking about the story, and then I would just chat with them. Mhm.
Mm.
What about you, Martin? What kind of students do you normally deal with?
It's an interesting question. I teach a range of students. I work at an international school. My context is international students predominantly, but then there are the Korean cohort of students, those that come from high school and they go in as freshmen, or those in their first years of university. And like you said, particularly for the last 2 weeks, I've been teaching a group of Korean high school students in preparation for them to come into the university, just to get them more comfortable and confident, communicating in English, because that's what they're going to be exposed to in the coming months, when the spring semester starts. And I have a range of levels, just like Claudia mentioned. I have the beginner, or those not beginner students, but students who have never had the opportunity to actually speak English. They've studied the grammar, they've studied the language, and they've studied a huge amount of vocabulary, but they've never really strung a sentence together. But then I have the more proficient students, and it's quite an interesting experience to see. And one thing that I decided to do was actually removing a lot of the tech, removing that comfort blanket, that technological comfort blanket that students may have, because immediately they're on their Papago, their Naver dictionary, just to translate or to scan what's been written. And it's like, well, actually, no, just stop there, just wait, because there's a beauty in discovering rather than being spoon-fed everything instantly, I suppose.
Yeah. It's funny because oh yeah, go on. Go on.
I was going to say, what are your thoughts then? We've touched upon technology or media to some extent, but what's your thoughts, Minnie, when it comes down to removing some of that technology and giving students time to internalize what they've been learning in the classroom?
I definitely agree with removing the tech. So if you are a normal student in Korea, it's normal for kids to learn English all the time at school. So I always tell them, you guys already have learned all the knowledge that you need to learn. So all you need to do is just spit it out. And it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. Just whatever you're imaging, that just spit that thing out, whether it's a word or a wrong sentence or just a stutter. For example, the younger kids, they don't have this, but when this one case, when I met a high school girl, the first time she came, she was like, she couldn't make any sound because she has never tried it. But I encouraged her to stutter as much as she can. And I said, that is the start. And then she spitted out words. And then the words became very short sentences. And then it became wrong sentences. And then later she got used to it and started talking. So I guess if this process is done by ChatGPT or Papago, it's not making your brain work. So I think it's a must for students to actually ponder upon what do I really want to say, and personally, I think the grammatical way of the Korean English education is a bothering, very bothersome for people to learn English, because the more they have studied the English grammar through the Korean education, they think about the structure first. They're like, okay, so where does the subject verb, and is this a noun, pronoun, and I can see their eyes thinking about that structure. So I always tell the more learned students, I say, okay, forget about it. Just forget about that. Just spit it out, whatever it is, and make a lot of mistakes.
And
That's a good point.
one metaphor I tell my students is, imagine you're swimming or you're learning to swim. Do you actually want to read a book about swimming and you learn everything, all the history and the methodology and the process, the application of swimming, and swimming completely back to front? Or, do you actually learn swimming by actually practicing and making those mistakes? And it's the same with language. Do you want to study about linguistics and the grammar and everything else like that, but not be able to produce the language? And so that's the sort of metaphor I tell my students, and that's when they have that light bulb moment. They go, okay, let's just speak.
I've found that using music, so setting the environment to be a bit more relaxed. So I try to make my environment like a coffee shop. So I've always got background music so that people feel like no one's listening to my conversation and my mistakes, so that they focus more in on like their conversations. And I also I usually play like a lot of music. Sometimes it annoys my like co-workers. Sometimes they're actually thankful, because I remember there was one time, so I tried this out. I wanted students to speak with a bit more volume, and to just so that they can kind of practice the pronunciation, the intonation, and just to force them to, like, I have to say out loud what I'm thinking and not quietly. So I chose this, I think, was it Satisfaction? It's like this club music with, like, the bass is going douche, douche, douche. I cranked up the volume so loud that the next door class later on, the professor was like, did you play like this loud music? Thank you, because all my students started to move and groove, and we all started to join in. It actually, brought up the kind of atmosphere and stuff like that. So I did apologize. I was like, I'm sorry. Maybe you were doing a test or like quiet reading, and then you're there hearing Satisfaction. But I found that putting the music on, because one thing I was like, if I can get them relaxed, maybe they'll be free to make mistakes and open up a little bit more. So that has worked. But what I've struggled with is when I have one or two students who say nothing. Like, if you say a couple of things, like if you stutter, I can work with that, because I can be like, keep doing it. But then I have those students who just nothing, like they won't even open their mouth. So how do we deal with that? Any ideas? Have you ever come across a super shy student? How do you work without, like, I don't know, bringing them out of their shell, getting them to try?
So I think whenever I see a person who doesn't feel comfortable about making sounds, I let them read it out loud first. So getting away the burden of free talking. So read the text, and then usually they do read it or repeat after me. So that would kind of give them a warm up. And most of the students who stay quiet are the ones who really, really are afraid of making the mistake. So just warm up by making them speak out loud by reading. And I guess a lot of time is needed doing that first. Uh-huh. And then also for a lot of the really, really bigger beginners, I asked them to write their journals, like their everyday diary about themselves. Like, what do you do? What is your daily routine? And go with the really, really, really obvious stuff. What time do you wake up? And they're like, I wake up at 7 o'clock. And then do you eat breakfast? Then I eat breakfast. And just go with the really obvious stuff that they have to. It's like everybody wakes up, everybody eats. So they have to say it. Yeah.
It's like the simpler conversations before like tackling the difficult ones.
I suppose for me, in my thought process, whenever I have students who are obviously low level and quite reticent and not really wanting to communicate, I tend to I do sort of a pyramid activity where, I get students to write down certain ideas to questions that I have, and then I pair them up into into pairs. Sorry. And then I put them into larger groups and what have you until they start to, formulate what they want to say. And then I nominate certain students, and then that's when they can refer to what they've written. And there's also that balancing where it's more, structured and supportive, and then the balance of having that authentic communication. And if you're able to have a sort of controlled environment and a more spontaneous environment where you're moving towards that other end, that authentic, spontaneous interaction, that's better. But then obviously we need to strive for routines and give the students the necessary skills so that they're able to communicate in a way.
What I've also found interesting is that a lot of the classes that I have, students are quite happy speaking in pairs or even in small groups like 3. As soon as I'm like, right, you've been speaking about this topic for maybe, let's say, 10 minutes. Now let's go around and share what you've been talking about so that we can kind of open it up into a discussion. It just goes dead. I've like lost them. And I'm always baffled because, when they're talking to each other, it's really energetic. Mouths are moving. People are they're obviously saying something. I don't know if it's about the topic. I'm trusting that it's about the topic. But, they're using so much energy. But as soon as it's like, all right, let's do it as a whole class so that we can all hear each other's ideas and sharing, just... nobody says anything. And then I've literally got to pull it out and be like, you give me something, And then that's where I think I have the issue where I start to fill in too much for them because it's too quiet. And so I start to give the ideas, which I think sometimes it takes away that opportunity from students. But I just feel so lost because it's like, I want you to talk. You're not talking. I'm looking at the time. It's too awkward. So then, any ideas about that? Like, or can you give us some more tips about why Korean students are so reluctant in terms of group discussions? Or is there something that we can maybe bear in mind when it comes to that?
I think it's a really cultural thing. Koreans are not used to giving presentations, and they're not used to speaking in front of groups. The public education is still focused on giving the right answers. So it's not easy for us to think creatively and talk without giving the right answer. So for the younger kids, I would try like the would you rather questions. Like you have to pick either one, but the really silly questions. So those kind of worked because it really interested them. Like the like, would you be an octopus or would you rather be a unicorn? Like things like that. Like they would suddenly become very interested. But that was very temporary. So so to tell you the truth, it is very hard to come up with a solution for this, because I think this has nothing to do with English. It's a cultural background thing. It's like we feel embarrassed just to be seen in front of the public or a group of more than 4 or 5. So what kind of worked in the hagwons, the academies, was so using the pictures on the screen. So if it were, for example, Harry Potter, every chapter is seen as is shown as one picture. Then you can just briefly talk about that picture in 1 or 2 sentences, which is retelling without actually putting your thought into it. So that maybe it works. But if you were to say, so what are your thoughts about this chapter? It's like, my thoughts? Am I allowed to think? I mean,
and what's the right answer? What should I say?
What should my thoughts be? So it's interesting that you say that, because I did an activity where it was 4 corners and I had agree, slightly disagree, or slightly agree, really disagree, and then whatever, I put just 4 corners with different answers, and I would say a statement, like, for example, I think ketchup is better than mayonnaise, and then you would go to where I call out. And what was really interesting, out of 30 students, only 2 students had differing opinions. Everybody else was like a bunch of sheep that all went to the same corners each time. And I was kind of shocked, because I didn't expect it. I expected a lot more variations with the answers, but it's like question after question, it was just the same thing. They would either move this way or they would move that way. And I saw one student was a foreigner, so I understood that she wasn't going to think the same anyways, because our experiences are different. Another student's Korean, but even in the way he carries himself, he's slightly a bit more of a kind of a rebel. He does his own thing, kind of thing. So only those 2 chose different opinions. Everybody else would kind of look around and see, where is everyone moving? Okay, let's go this way. And I was really shocked, because I was like, you are, you're 19 plus, and how are you all, moving this? I was really, I don't know. I think maybe as a British person, I couldn't believe that at that age, the kind of the group mentality was so strong.
Following the leader.
Shocker. Yeah, it was really shocking.
Wow.
It's very, very cultural. In Korean, we call it the 단일 민족, which means we are the people of unity. So if we don't unite, that is a weirdo. Yeah. So following the strong leader. And also the Korean culture still does not have the idea that if you become 19, you're an individual adult. We still don't have that. So becoming independent is not normal for 20-year-olds. We are still under the reign of our moms and dads.
Wow, that's just mind-boggling.
Yeah,
it really is.
So the Koreans are so used to just obeying to the elders. So it is a cultural thing. How to help them not do that?
I kind of feel sorry for all the students that have been in my class and have been forced to give your opinion, make a decision. That must have been really, really hard thinking back.
Would it be better for students to say, okay, well, in Korean, in the culture of Korean, this is how you operate, but then within English, don't try and put it together with Korean, because of course it won't translate. So try and separate, and within English, whilst you're communicating in English, you can be your own individual. You can be who you want to be. You don't need to conform.
Right.
I don't know.
So I try to. So I think the cultural education should come prior to the language education, because the whole ideology is very different. So, for example, when I would teach my younger group of kids, I would show them like a YouTube clip of Western kids in a choir and talk about their attitude. And I would ask them, so what do you feel from their expression, their facial expressions, or their posture? And the kids would say, they look confident, they look free. And I would tell them, yes, that's what we need. But when they go back to their reality, it's still so hard for Koreans to show oneself differently from others. The ones who are different from others are still considered an outcast and a strange person. So it's hard.
I learned the word. Is it
Yeah.
wangta? I learned the
Wangta.
term wangta.
Yeah, wangta is
outsider.
a little bit more negative. So a kid who is purposefully outcasted from the main group.
Okay.
Kind of a soft word for bullying.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's
Right. Well, I'm gonna move over to today's sponsorship, and this show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development day and visit www.hachetteLearning.com to explore their full range of titles. Right. Well, obviously, Minnie, you spent from the introduction, you spent a period of time in Italy. You obviously are proficient in English or fluent in English, and you've also had a background of being brought up in Korea. So there's probably about 3 cultures going on.
Yes.
What sort of experience did you have within Europe, and how different was that to all the other experiences that you had?
Experiences in Europe. So the Italians were more similar to Koreans than the Americans, which was kind of fun, which was kind of funny because...
I was always told that Koreans are like the Italians of Asia.
Yes.
Oh, really?
We are all very hot-tempered. And like when the Americans when they come out of the airport and when they see the people waiting, the Italians were all like, they weren't smiling, and the Americans would come out and say, smile, people. Which was kind of like the Koreans, we don't smile. So that was kind of interesting. So a lot of the Asian people might think all the white people are similar, but they are similar in some way, but very different in some other ways too, I think. Italian culture. The food is really good.
Did you find it salty? Because I heard from Koreans before that when they've gone to Italy and they want to be like, let's try, pizza, and then they were like, too salty. Like they complained that it wasn't like compared to Italian food in Korea and actual Italian food, they were like pretty shocked. Or did you adapt pretty quickly?
According to my memory, it was not salty. It was really delicious.
Oh yeah, of course.
Rather, I have this memory of when I was in university. I went to Virginia, and the first potato chips were salty as heck. I was really surprised.
Okay, potato chips. You mean like for us British? It would
Crisp.
be crisps.
Crisp. See, European and crisps,
American
yes.
English.
American English.
Yeah.
Wow.
Funny.
Yeah. Potato chips, crisps are incredibly salty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know something that's really changed me in Korea? I've had to adapt to American English. When I first came, I said football. And then over the years, I've just disgustingly started to say soccer. And it really makes me sick that I say that word. But I've just had to say it. Like one of the frustrating things is that students are more used to the American accent. So when I first came, I would say something like, okay, this is the answer. And then they would be like, what? Like, answer. And morago? And then I'd be like, answer. And they're like, oh, yeah, correct.
Yeah. And the vowel sounds are all over the place when it comes down to their English.
Like the Koreans they had this joke about British English. One of the first words that we learned is water. But then we would talk about British English and water.
Water. It's funny because
amount of times I've been asked to say that word.
Yeah. One of my students from last week actually said, "Can you say this? This is a current meme going on in Korea, and it's like a bottle of water." But then if you use it in Cockney slang, it's like a bottle of water.
Yeah, that and also I came today.
Really? I came today.
I came today is I came to die.
I came today.
I
is that Australian?
Could you try saying I came today?
I came today.
In British accent, the Koreans would make a joke about I came to die.
Oh really? I think that's more Australian. That to die sounds I don't know, not very.
Or it could be Essex today.
Yeah,
I came today.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, maybe. That's one thing that I do think should happen more is introducing our students to different accents.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about British. I'm talking about even other English countries that are lesser known, like Nigeria is an English speaking country, and we've got some kind of Nigerian community here and how they speak, and also their music is quite popular nowadays in the Western world. And so it's really important, I think, to expose our students to other accents so that they understand that it's not, you don't just have to aim for one thing, and maybe it might help them to be okay about their own Korean accents, because they'll realize actually there are tons of accents out there. There's tons of ways that people use English speaking. I mean, if you listen to Patwa, from Jamaica, there's just so many. I always tell people, London alone, depending on the area that you're in, even one street from another street can be completely different mannerisms, ways of speaking. Like if I said Minnie, if I said Bob's your uncle, what would you think?
What was your uncle?
Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle?
Bob's your uncle.
Bob's.
B-O-B. Yeah, Bob's your uncle.
Oh, Bob is your uncle?
Bob's your uncle, yeah.
What do you
Bob
think
is your uncle? The uncle's name is Bob.
Okay, but what does it mean? There's a meaning behind it.
There's a meaning behind it.
Bob's your uncle. Huh. Bob's your uncle. I have no idea. Bob's your uncle.
I love how you're like really thinking.
Bob's your uncle.
How would we describe it? Bob's your uncle. It's like almost immediately that happened, or almost immediately that was the answer, or this was the result. I guess
that's it. Kind of.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I went down to my local patisserie in Deadjohn because we have lots of bread here, and Bob's your uncle. I ended up with 3 croissants.
Oh. Ah. Now I learned something new.
Yeah. Martin, I don't know if you're aware of this, but using people's names within the sentence. For example, the famous football player, what was it? Frank Lampard. Like I could say, let's be Frank, let's be Lampard. Have you ever used?
I've never used that.
You've never used that.
No. I know that. I grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s as a young adult, and Pete Tong was a prolific DJ at that time. Pete Tong used to do DJ sets and everything else like that. And one of the slangs is, "Oh, everything's gone Pete Tong." It's like a Cockney rhyming slang, and it means like everything's gone wrong.
Wrong, yeah.
Everything's
yeah. So
gone
we've got all of these things. I think it's so diverse, it's so complex, it's so beautiful, but we end up just everybody let's just follow this one thing. Even in America, depending on which state you're in, the accents are all different, mannerisms are also all different. Like I remember one of my I used to work in Starbucks, and our manager was from I don't know, the southern part of America, like the kind of North Carolina side of America, of North America. And the way that this lady carried herself was exactly like how you would see in the movies. I mean, her hair was like big, and she was this like Monday morning, she'd be like, "Good morning, everybody," like too much energy for like just the work that we were doing. And she was always about barbecues and traveling, and her persona was really, really funny and interesting to learn about. So for me, I feel like that should be more of a part in the classroom. Maybe if we do that, could it reduce the anxiety of like accents and perfectionism? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of changing. Like back in the old days, the American English, the American pronunciation was the only answer. But as time passed by, the diverse cultural English became another thing. And I think one of the biggest changes was the test TOEIC. They never had other pronunciation than American English, but at some point, the listening tests conveyed different accents. Like the last time, it was a long time ago, I heard was there was a British accent and there was an Australian accent. And so the Korean tests the English tests are using different accents. And also Korean celebrities, a lot of them have like interviews, and people are now more used to seeing them using the Korean accent on the media. So I think it's changing now.
Changing a little bit.
That's true. Well, I'm going to move swiftly into our second sponsorship for today, and Teachers Talk Connect is back, our annual CPD and networking extravaganza. Join the TTR team on Saturday the 14th of March in Manchester. Tickets are free. What are you waiting for? Head over to ttradio.org/connect 2026, and I'll put a link in the comments so you can access that as well.
Nice.
Right. Well, moving on. You spent a period of time in America. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. How long had you been in America before you returned, to Korea? I'm assuming your background was Korean in some regard, but you had some period outside of Korea.
Right.
You returned back into the mainstream education
Right.
after some period. There must have been some difficulties that you encountered when you returned back to Korea. How was this process for you?
So I went to America right after I was born. So I was 100 days born baby when I was when I first went to the US. And then I came to and fro. And the last time I came to Korea was when I was in first grade in elementary school. So that culture shock. Like the first thing I remember was when I was in the US, all the students would sit with their backs straight. But in Korea, when the teacher said like, okay, everybody, now write the stuff on the board on your notebooks, and everybody would just go down, like all the 50 kids. And I was like, whoa, what's happening? And punishment was a normal thing. Everybody would get hurt, would get hit with a stick. So education in Korea was what's it called? It's just this whole big part of punishment and violence. It was really scary.
Wow.
So whether you don't listen to the teacher or if you get stuff wrong, you would get hit physical violence. So especially in math, they would like give us quizzes, and if it were like 30 questions and I got 20 wrong, then they would hit us 20 times on the hand.
Oh yes. Did they use the ruler as well to hit you, but not on the wide side, but on the very narrow side?
No, they used the wide side.
Okay, because my wife was telling me when she was growing up and going through education herself that they would stand in a line, and the number of questions you got wrong, you got hit, and all these students would be standing in a line, and once she got 10 questions wrong and she got hit with the ruler, but they didn't use the wide side, but they used the narrow side. It was really painful.
It's more painful.
It depends on the teacher. And the wide side ruler, like many of the times it just broke because the teacher hit so much.
Wow. Yeah. I recall as well back in 2005, it's completely changed nowadays in Korea, but I remember some of these kids that I was teaching in Hagwon, they were kind of, rebellious, and kids are kids, and, there was nothing wrong with them. But then after about 10 minutes, they disappeared out the classroom. The directorate lined them up, all three of these kids, and they put them, all boys, and they were like putting dictionaries above their heads or putting them into stress positions. And, and I was thinking, oh my God, the poor kids,
And also, I remember the scariest punishment in the US as a first grader in elementary school was being sent out of the classroom. That was like a really a big shock for me. But they, other than that, there was nothing violent.
No. I remember vividly being sent out of the classroom, my French class, and I was so scared. I was going to say something else there, but I was incredibly scared And I was a nervous wreck because I could hear the head teacher walking down, and I was thinking, "Oh my God, what if he spots me? What shall I say? Oh my God!"
Yeah.
And then another time, I got a detention, and I was so scared I couldn't show my parents this slip that they had to sign. So in the end, I forged my parents' signature, and I turned up to the detention like, "Here's a slip. I'm going to stay for 30 minutes and do whatever you want me to do, and I'm going to go back home and pretend I was really busy."
Ew. Yeah, the bus was late a couple of times for me because I got so many detentions. No, I wasn't particularly bad. I was just very chatty. I always had something to say. So I got sent out a lot, got lots of detentions. And then now I'm a teacher who now has to deal with kids like me, which is so ironic and so funny. I think you made a good point. Oh, sorry, Martin, go ahead.
How is the whole situation? Because recently within Korea, there's been the issue of teachers having that challenge of dealing with parents, even at universities, where you have these young university students and the parents are demanding regrading and everything else like that. And, there's been high profile cases where teachers have committed, I'm not going to say the word, but they've ended their life due to the pressure and stress of parents. And how has it changed and evolved when it comes down to classroom management and punishment with students in Korea?
Wow. That part of the school, it changed so much. I always wondered how teachers deal with the problems in school, because now teachers aren't allowed to, they are restricted in many parts. I think it's an ongoing problem, and we are still looking for some good answers, which we don't have yet, because every small problem is now evolved into 학폭, which means school violence. So whatever small thing happens, it just goes onto the documentary of it becomes public, and everything starts going to everything becomes going to court, and everybody's being sued. I heard this one case in Seoul at one elementary school. 1/3 of the teachers were gone because the students sued their teachers.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think we're in that middle process of era where we're struggling with the discipline, the method of disciplining. I'm not sure. I always think about what's right and wrong, and I think a lot of the Korean teachers are struggling because of that. And yes, especially, as I said, the Korean culture is you have to obey as a student. That was our past culture, but now the new generation, it changed so fast. They're like they have become very rebellious, but without a core value, I think. So I think everybody's very confused right now.
It kind of reminds me how things were, I talked to my parents about their upbringing and how they got through education, and they went through a period where they were punished physically if they ever misbehaved. And then that was banned. You weren't allowed to do, harm kids, of course. And kids became more rebellious, and I always consider like Korea's like just a few steps behind the UK when it comes down to
Yeah.
how things are evolving and developing, and
Mm.
and it's always a good opportunity to compare where Korea is socially and compare it with other countries and their history of, within the education industry.
Mhm.
It is quite interesting because, yeah, I agree with you, because sometimes I'm like, no matter what problems I face in Korea with students, apart from like really severe bullying, but in terms of like misbehaving or talking in class, it is nothing compared to what I witnessed as a student in London. Like, it is far worse.
Mm.
I don't even know if I could teach elementary in some UK schools, because I remember I was on a bus. This sixth grader, like year 6 student, looked at me square in the eyes. And I was like, if at that age, I would have been too afraid to look at an adult in the, like, let alone in their eyes, as if to say, I'm going to challenge you. Like, I don't even remember what it was about, but I just remember he was so determined to stand his ground and just look at me. And I even felt intimidated. So sometimes I'm like, yes, there are problems in Korea, but to some extent, there's still like students still respect the teacher. And yes, parents are overstepping, but there's still some kind of, you can still manage things to a certain extent without it going completely wild.
But I suppose as well, what we hear in the media is just the small elements of the
like
extremes,
extreme cases,
rather than how things are in reality.
What I had issues with was, because I'm a foreigner, I once taught kindergarten, and this was a class that it's not my class. I was just coming in to do a few classes for like a winter camp. On the first day, there was a boy student, let's just call him Minsu. He wasn't listening. He wasn't following anything. The classroom teacher was like, that's how he usually is. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to pay too much attention to him. As long as he's safe, it's okay. But what had happened is, at one point, he actually joined in a game and he won. And when you win, I would give you a sticker on your hand to say, well done. But because he just kept on misbehaving and not listening, I was like, well, I'm going to take that sticker away. Biggest mistake. He gave the biggest tantrum and was like crying and everything like that. I didn't know the effect of me doing that and how much trouble the homeroom teacher would get into. Because what happened is, as soon as the parents came to pick up the kids, the mum looked at her son crying, and she didn't look at me, who was actually leading the class. She looked at the Korean teacher and said, what have you done? Why is my son crying? So all her anger was put on her. And it was later, after the kids had gone, I spoke to the teacher, and she's like, to be honest with you, it's really difficult. I can't discipline him in any way, because the parent would complain as soon as they don't want, this particular parent didn't want her son to cry or to be told off. And so the teacher just felt like, what can I do? I can't tell him off, but he's not listening. And it's really, at some point, it really disrupted the class, because he was just so noisy and sometimes slightly violent. And so I just felt so sorry for her. I apologized profusely, because I was like, I was the one that went in there like Rambo and being like, you need to listen to the teacher, and I felt really, really sorry. But number one, I can't even communicate in Korean to be able to talk to the parent and explain to her that he's not being punished for no reason, but we're trying to teach him rules of the lesson. We're trying to get him to follow, the class rules and to learn. So I think my question to you, Minnie, is how do you deal with a parent who kind of, they have their own expectations? How do you realistically communicate expectations to parents when it comes to behavior, or even just the kids' ability to learn English? Because some parents, they have this idea in their mind, my kids should be here, why are they not here, give me the reasons. Like, how have you dealt with maybe pushy parents or tiger moms? Or do you have any? I feel like you would have like you've got your ability of being like dealing with that.
Well, I haven't really taught in like a classroom situation so much, but as a parent, I have seen the changes of how the public schools have been dealing with the parenting, and I've been getting a lot of messages publicly from schools saying that these are what the teachers are doing, and the punishment is because of this and that, and the school tries to convey the message to parents, like try to tell them, please give authority to the teachers. So they have detailed notices as far as saying like, please do not speak bad of the teacher in front of your kids. Your mistrust will bring the mistrust of your child to the teacher. And please talk to the teacher before you go to the police or a bigger organization. So the school keeps on giving messages, like detail, steps. And also they have this we class. It's called a we class, where it's basically a therapy classroom that's in all the schools now. But they also say if parents need to talk about something, they can go there. And they have this application where the parents can always communicate with the teacher. So they say from some time to some time, you can always communicate, ask questions, and if there is a problem, please do not listen to your child's point of view only. Please wait till the other points of views come. So they really try to educate the parents too.
It's good. It's good to know that these steps are in place, because I really did feel sorry for that teacher that time, having to deal with that. But it's good to know that that they're. I guess it's really difficult. It's a new territory, so it's good to know that they're putting things in place.
Particularly with technology these days, when students can record their teacher or certain situations which may appear different to how actually things were prior to whatever they captured with their smart devices, and it would really cause challenges or a conflict of interest, or put the school into disrepute if it's just you're looking at a 10-second clip, but you're not looking at anything before that which led up to it, I suppose. And there's a lot to unpack there, I suppose, culturally. Anyhow, I'm going to just slide into our sponsorship for today. This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. So level up your professional development today and visit www.hachetlearning.com to explore their full range of titles. Right, well, during the introduction of yourself, Minnie, Claudia mentioned that you're involved with video creation or video content creation. I don't know specifically.
She's film director.
Film director. Wow,
Yes.
Fantastic. That's brilliant.
Thank
Could you
you.
share us a little bit more about that experience at all?
Well, I am in various fields of filmmaking. I have made short films, and I am also teaching students how to make smartphone short films as well.
And
Is that with elementary? Oh,
sorry. What led you into that, Minnie? What?
Oh, okay. I'll answer both of it. My experience in the American School of Milan in Italy, there was always the drama class and the after school musicals. So it was a great opportunity for me to be able to participate in lots of art subjects. So I always felt this really big wanting to be on stage and also create stories. And later on, I was a big fan of animations and feature films and also TV shows. And I thought I really needed to do that. And so I went to University of Virginia as an exchange student, and I joined their filmmaker society. It was a small club in the university, and I started making short films and documentaries and music videos, and dreamed of becoming a film director. But then after that, I gave birth to my first son, and I always wanted to be a full-time mom as a responsible person. And I never thought of doing those two together, like working and then being a mom. I was very focused on being a mom. But it gave me depression because I couldn't do what I always wanted to do. So I started searching on YouTube and found a teacher who was making films with his students. And I was like, that's really cool. And I should do that. And I just started filming with my kids and my kids' friends. And I filmed with my smartphone and edited, and it came out to be a movie. And I'm like, wow, this surprisingly works. And I submitted it to a film festival, and we got an award.
Well done.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you. So I was really surprised that it actually worked. So from then on, I kept on making films with my smartphone, and also started co-working with the kids, giving them the chance to write scripts, making the stories, and also holding onto the camera and also editing. And that just led on to teaching them. And now currently I've been teaching elementary kids and also middle school students how to make short films.
That's amazing.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
For me personally, my background just in videography is just through my YouTube channel, and YouTube itself has opened up the opportunity for anyone to capture any content that they see fit. And so, the opportunity for others to create content, video content, is possible. And all you need is just your smartphone at the end of the day. And that's what I used for maybe 10, 15 years until I got a camera. And most people end up doing this as a sort of hobby. And I've always thought about getting my Korean learners into creating video content, whether it is creating a vlog, a daily vlog. Sorry, Claudia, I'm just going to mute you. So creating a vlog, and I was thinking about how to get students who are creative and are artistic in that sense into creating videos or documenting their life. And my influence has been like Casey Neistat and that sort of thing, the raw real footage that's shown, which vlogging was not really seen as any serious process. But it's really interesting to see how something creative could maybe engage learners, particularly where YouTube is seen as, you ask kids, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be a YouTuber or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, I self-taught myself for a long time, and many of the great teachers who taught me videography was YouTubers. Like I would search words like how to film by yourself, and like and there were so many teachers on YouTube who showed the step-by-step methods, and also encouraged me to just go and film with a smartphone.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of material available on YouTube, where it's either the planning, the scripting, the recording, the editing, and then the post-production. And there's so much resource available, there's a great opportunity for students where we can maybe turn it round for language learners, where they can maybe access and produce English-based content regardless of their background, I suppose.
Right. I haven't tried using video as a English learning tool yet, but my next goal is to make English newscast with the children, and giving them like roles as announcers and reporters. Using the children's content and copying some of them.
Well, I've actually done vlogs and podcasts with university students and mini videos with elementary students, and what I wanted to ask was how to improve it, because right now a lot of them are familiar with the vlog content, not so familiar with what a podcast should look like. So I'm not sure if podcasts are not very popular in Korea, because they are in like Western parts of the world. Podcasts are like the it thing, like everybody's doing podcasts. But when I give that to because I give them the option to either choose video or to make a podcast on a particular topic. And the podcasts usually tend to then just be people just giving chunks, paragraphs of reading rather than like a conversation. And then the videos are sometimes good, but they lack that individual creativity where they give you their own, again, that word unique perspective. It will be, if I show an example, everybody will follow that example. So sometimes I don't give an example, but if I don't give an example, then they feel like I've never done this before and I don't know where to start. So how do you get the students to be creative with things like making the mini video when they've never done it before? What are some instructions that you give, or what approach do you kind of use when it comes to like working with unique creative things?
Right. I usually do, I spend a lot of time mind mapping. Like I would just say, okay, be as silly as possible, be as blunt as possible, just spit out anything. It doesn't matter. You don't have to think, just spit out anything. And then I would write all the keywords on the board, and I would encourage them. For example, if a kid said jjajangmyeon, then I would say, oh, maybe the jjajangmyeon wants to become a jampong. Like,
and for those listeners that don't know what jjajangmyeon is, it's like a Chinese-based black noodle, and a jampong is a really spicy seafood noodle, I guess.
Yeah. For example, if the main character is a hamburger, it's a hamburger who wants to be a pizza. And then maybe they need a new bun, or then the kids would like start crazy stuff, and I would encourage that and say like, oh, that's a great story, and then they would just be really having fun about it. And so I would just be really serious and say, oh, that is a very good beginning, middle, and end story. So what happens to the hamburger in the end? Or does the hamburger has parental issues? Or like I would interpret it in terms of character or plot or philosophy even. For example, what value does that hamburger have? What is the background of that hamburger? Or what is the biggest life problem. So then we would just talk about crazy stuff and just have fun with it. And yeah,
I guess that storyboarding, that brainstorming, mind mapping, it's so key to get an engaging video, something that people can connect with as well, because what you're trying to do is to connect the viewer or the listener to what story you're wanting to share.
And allow them to be kind of not, if they don't make sense, I kind of allow that and even put it in the final results, because that is the raw artness of kids. Because no adult would put that in the results, the final results.
Yeah. See, that's the other thing I was gonna say. Kids in Korea, I've experienced kids, elementary kids, will take the risk and go a little bit outside of the box and be very imaginative. But the university students, I've only ever experienced it one time when I did, you had to make a music video. So we wrote the song or the rap, whatever it is, you write, which I guess is like the mapping, and then you create a video of that song. So I had 2 boys who made a song about soju. So for anyone who doesn't know what soju is, it's like the national drink of Korea, very cheap alcohol. So they made a song about their love of soju, and they did little clips at home in the streets, and it was literally like how soju helps me go on, and how, you know, my joy, my love, I can eat it with this. It was so funny, and it was so refreshing, because I got to see a little bit of a different side to, you know, the students in the classroom. But when I've tried to replicate that with other classes, I've really struggled, and it's made me feel like, where am I going wrong in my instruction? And something you said earlier, which I'd never really thought about, was to show culture first before teaching the language, because then they might understand where we're coming from with some of these ideas. And so from our talk today, I've realized perhaps I'm expecting them to understand ideas that they've never experienced, that could also be culturally really against just their whole system of thinking. So it's actually, I'm asking a lot of these students, you know, which it's food for thought, definitely.
It's interesting, because I recall a time I was working at a Hagwon initially when I first started teaching, Private Language Institute, for those that aren't aware what a Hagwon is. But I invited 6 English students to come and visit the UK with me. But obviously it was all budgeted and everything else like that. And I had 6 students sign up out of the whole Hagwon, and the directors came along with me. And I recall one instance when I was in London and the kids were buying some chocolate or some snacks from like the local newsagent, we would say, or the corner shop, you know, the Pyeonijun. And they went in and they picked out what they wanted to buy, and they put it down and immediately asked, how much is it? And this guy, this cashier, you know, this 40-year-old guy was like, well, I don't know, I haven't even scanned it yet. And I had to say, don't ask immediately. Don't say, how much is it, like you are in Korean, because we don't, you know, interact like that. You hand it over, you wait, he scans it, and then you can say, oh, how much is that? And it's get that sort of culture, that communication that was really eye-opening for me, because you take it for granted as a you know, within your own culture, but you don't see it as an outsider until you see how your students are interacting within that culture, and that sort of juxtaposition, I suppose.
So it's almost like I've got to teach what I understand as creativity to the students. I've got to make that very clear to them in order for them to understand, because it's almost, I have an idea of creativity, what that means to me, and they have their own versions of creativity, and we always clash, because I'm expecting, like, I'm like, okay, go and make unique videos about university life. And then I get 10 videos, which are, oh, I wake up in the morning, I go to the library. And I'm just like, oh my
Where's
goodness.
the story?
And
I've heard everyone.
it's a nightmare because I sometimes also, I'm like, okay, groups, introduce your video. And literally video after video, it's the same. It's very boring. And I've gone through different roller coasters where I've blamed them and I've blamed myself. But I think today it's about realizing that maybe we understand creativity differently just because culturally we see things differently. Maybe it's about spending a bit more time at the beginning of the semester sharing my culture, my way of thinking, what I expect, and getting them used to that in some ways before then demanding of them to create and show me. And so thank you. I never looked at it that way. So that's really helpful. It will definitely make a difference in the next semester because I think I'll be a bit kinder to them. If I get 10 of the same videos, I'll be like, okay, maybe you all talked and you all made an agreement. Let's all do the same thing. Then she has a harder time grading us.
Yeah, it certainly gives food for thought. And, hopefully those watching the show can see or have some inspiration and some ideas about approaching more creative tasks, whatever their teaching context also. But yeah, thank you ever so much, Minnie. It was wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And for you to share your unique journey into teaching and your experiences within cultures and education. Yeah, thank you.
This was so meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and sharing.
Yeah. Well, for those that are watching the show, thank you ever so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you've got any questions, feel free to post a comment. Where we're streaming our show on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, X. It's now called X. But anyway, thank you ever so much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you and Claudia. We'll see in 2 weeks' time in our next show. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
So,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Grateful.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused